That's the only difference. One is a little slower, you know, falling down to the ground. So, you know, we got to remember that. It's not, oh, the Democrats going to save us. No. They will sell you out in a minute. In a minute. Remember, who's Democrats? Hillary Clinton. What a vile succubus. What a vile woman. What a vile... You know,
there's a lot of learning that has to take place. I mean, I'm listening, and I can see why, you know, it seems like 14 hours isn't enough.
And considering the fact that a former vice president from Goldman Sachs is running for mayor of Jersey City next year, Lord knows what exactly is going to happen if he becomes mayor.
I'd love to take a few questions off of the chat.
Lord knows.
Dying to ask questions.
That's why Global Revolution, since you are mirroring this, and I know somebody's behind the scene moderating, listen, Jersey City is going to be the battleground next year between in the great struggle between the 99% and the 1%. We need people here in Jersey City. It's right across the river.
For outcome.
Train right away.
Because the observational
it takes not even that. It takes 5 minutes
so much,
to get from Occupy Wall Street to downtown Jersey City. The financial district is down there, and right next to the financial district is City Hall.
So
we need people here, and we need them here within the year desperately, because this is going to be a hot potato over here.
It's not even between 99 and 1%. It's the 0.1% and the 99.99%. As a lot of, I'm trying to remember a name, a number of people have put it. So it's the 0.1%.
I've been teaching this. I wrote the first book 25 years ago. This is the 25th anniversary of the book. Okay. So I've been teaching this a long time.
I mean, I know that.
And for most of that time, probably close to 20 years.
Language now is
I didn't compete between other causes.
You know, it's
you know, I said
we know that now. That's what we use.
The function of how long a decision takes to make is not a function of the process being used. If you're using the process that you're using well, they're different. But if you use the process well, it shouldn't get in the way of making the decision. But decisions themselves are sometimes easy and sometimes hard.
99.9. So
and that determines whether they take a short or long, how much time they take, is how complex, controversial, and difficult they are, not what process you use. But if you use a process badly, then that adds even more time in.
Much smaller than that.
So one point to make, and this is an illusion that Ben came up with,
like, you know, people
about GAs,
collectively use the term organized crime.
What the organizers do is they call a meeting in the park.
When people say Illuminati,
and they say, we're having a business meeting to make decisions.
What do you think, lizards?
We're going to play Beethoven's violin concerto. And so they hand out violins to everybody in the crowd. They hand out sheet music. They say, okay, now, let's play!
You know, it's not any conspiracy theory. Look
and
at
not
Forbes.
very much happens.
Go to Forbes magazine.
Well, a lot happens, but nothing gets done. It's a cacophony.
I would like to illustrate something here, that because of the gentrification of downtown Jersey City, the other areas of Jersey City are neglected.
Yeah.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg.
They can really see this,
right?
But generally speaking, it's going to be
rampant in Newark, in Trenton, in Camden, and everywhere else.
I actually had the literal experience
South Plainfield, AC, you name it.
Showing up at a facilitator's working group, and when I introduced myself, somebody recognizing who I was, and the fact that they had read my, that they knew about my book, and they would say something that literally has happened, where somebody said, we base our consensus process on your book.
The Canco factory, that's where the can.
And I said,
now it's a high exclusive condominium complex. You had the pencil factory,
Dixon Mills.
All these
I read some of it.
Closed. They've gone to
the Colgate factory.
I don't know what that means exactly.
A lot of the toothpaste now. Now, I'm not condemning Mexico. I'm not. Or Mexican people. I love Mexican.
A lot of people around Occupy said they were using consensus. A lot of groups said they were using my book as consensus.
They went to Mexico, not because they care so much about the Mexican people, because they can exploit them.
It's not really fair to compare what happened.
They don't have to worry about unions. They don't have to worry about the environment. They can exploit the people. They have defense.
And what
people never, the racist people, they never talk about
actually, I believe,
American corporations hopping the fence the other way. All they talk about, the Mexicans hopping the fence over. Really? What about the Hershey bar candy? What about Colgate? What about all these other companies that hop the fence for cheap labor, to exploit the land? They don't care about it. They never mention that, ever.
To then implement
Bill O'Reilly or any of these other scumbags.
Is a plan to do something in the future. You make decisions about the future.
We should.
That's what it is.
And we've got to shove that in their face. We've got to shove it in their face repeatedly.
It's already happened. You don't have to make a decision about it.
And
some very rarely make decisions right in the moment.
Even a lot of activists, I'm sorry to say it, but a lot of activists aren't really on the ball. And you got to get on the ball.
If you use majority rule and you have 100 people in your group,
they're not even alerted.
70 people really like it, 30 people really don't like it.
Infiltrators and shills.
When you go to implement it, those 30 people
feel paranoid, but
may not necessarily, like I said before, they'll sabotage, they'll resist, they'll undermine, they might not do a task they were given to do. And then also the other 70 people, maybe only 30 of them are zealous about it. The other 30 are like, well, maybe I only voted just because I wanted to get my vote for the other thing I wanted.
This isn't the 99-mile march, but thanks for putting up the link. This is Occupy Jersey City and Jersey City Peace Movement here.
Commitment to actually doing the decision once the decision is made. And since I work a lot with nonprofit boards of directors,
little camera shy,
little camera shy. The comment that they make a decision in a board meeting, sometimes after a lot of discussion, after maybe 2 or 3 meetings, they finally make a decision.
Turn around.
Only to have discussion.
And this, I got a little story about this highway here. This is the first established highway in the United States of America.
And they talk about
I believe it is. If not, it's the first established highway in the state of New Jersey. This highway was developed in I want to say 34. This is the highway that goes from the Pulaski Skyway to the Holland Tunnel, which connects New Jersey to New York City. It's deteriorating rapidly. You think the government could put some work into effort into it, but no, they just let it be. They let it rot, and pretty soon it's going to create a massive congestion problems, and unfortunately nobody's going to do anything about it. And I really hate to see it go because it is a historic artifact. Yes, we are in Jersey. Well, I'm in Jersey. I'm with Occupy Jersey City and Occupy.
Because everybody has to buy in already.
Excuse me, and Jersey City Peace Movement.
And that really does happen. It's not just my fantasy.
So I'm giving a little tour here.
Better decision making in the first place saves you time. That's the conceptual one.
So we're walking up to the Jersey City Heights.
Like I said,
I'm on my way, once again, for those who are tuning in.
Well, does
anybody have any ideas online?
I'll explain why. Hold on. I'll explain why I love purple, because this is where I'm from. This is my home, and it's being being raped by gentrification, essentially, and it needs to be exposed and shown what's going on here, because Jersey City is very ignored. And it's right next to New York City, and that's why it's ignored. But little do people know that Jersey City is one of the centers of political corruption here in the United States of America, and it needs to be exposed, and it needs to be exposed now, especially with next year when we have a former vice president from Goldman Sachs running for mayor of Jersey City, looking to gentrify the city and turn it upside down and force all the struggling middle-class people and the lower-class people out of Jersey City or into jail, and it needs to be shown.
Is a function of the complexity and difficultness of the decision to do.
These people here who I'm walking with, Eric Anders Nilsson, one of them, many others will be seeing at Action 21. They're the ones who helped get my foot into the door as far as political activism goes. So I owe them a little debt. And they need to be recognized for their work as community activists and community leaders.
Definitely. You know, and I'm not personally wedded to the word consensus. That's why I add value-based to my model.
Okay.
Group like Jersey
City. It's a really new, people are beginning to encourage me to say, this is a really new paradigm of decision making.
And even
it's a whole other way of being. It's not just like voting, only different. It's not like voting at all. It's a whole other system.
We paved the way. We cut the brush down.
Thank you for all that.
The Occupy movement.
the whole
we paved
evening.
the way to allow that to happen.
I want to make one observation. The feeling I get from this is that the model
and it was
is
all these little things that
dependent
spark every little seed along the way. Then along comes UNAC and has an important march that April before the Occupy sparks up.
April 9th, 2011.
That's right.
Look it up on YouTube. Eric and I helped organize for it.
Everybody has to be
big
open and
time.
honest
And
with
we
no hidden agendas.
then had
then this
film
model
come
will
out
serve
prior to Occupy,
that
which was
group.
it's called
So
Inside Job, and it's narrated by Matt Damon, against Goldman Sachs, and it exposes insider trading, the bubble, housing bubble, the reason that the nation is tanking, and the banks failed, how they got bailed out.
Again,
That's
it
the documentary was about, Academy Award winning. That comes out. So all these little things led to, then comes Occupy,
Well, so
Bloomberg. A week,
Bloombergville.
If you mean that it has to be there or for it to actually happen, I don't agree with that.
All of these things.
The structure itself has it in it. The structure actually has values embedded in it.
I would like to say, I don't want to throw Amy Goodman under a bus, but okay, you do.
Yeah.
But you know, because she has helped, you know, spread the word of Occupy. Credit to her, but her and her organization, Democracy Now. I'm going to say this right now. When we helped set up UNAC, the anti-war march, the rally, which our organization, our direct organization, Jersey City Peace Movement, had Cindy Sheehan come from California.
An individual or behavior or an idea outside their value system. Notice that to stop it.
Cindy Sheehan made sure she was there.
They noticed.
Speaking on
right now,
from California.
So Cindy Sheehan comes. We have all these anti-war activists at Union Square, and there was not one piece of coverage from Democracy Now and Amy Goodman.
Amy Goodman and Juan Gonzalez's backyard.
If you want to do that from your own group, you can be competitive in your own group. But in this group,
not only that, they didn't talk about it afterwards.
We had about 12,000 people there.
The whole group knows it.
Maybe a little less than that, but we were.
No, it was about 12,000.
It was about. All right.
Get passionate. I get a meeting that group that I belong to.
April 9th, 2011, Union Square. YouTube it. Eric and I helped organize that.
But I can get passionate and get my buttons pushed.
We would actually. We actually went to certain colleges and loitered and solicited people into coming into this rally. It was pretty radical autonomous action.
Behaving with goodwill and honesty, but the process also doesn't work if you don't behave that way.
This is in Amy Goodman's backyard.
So the process serves as our grounding element
to lower Manhattan. Now you got to remember, we marched to Fulton Square.
Instead of leaders.
Amy Goodman's base is at Wall Street.
Instead of having a dictator or a leader or a charismatic person getting us, controlling us to do the right thing,
couldn't send one representative with the. Look how Michael right now, right?
Thank you for that. And now we're going to take a few questions. And if you know, I don't care that we're going long tonight. This is awesome. I love it. So the first question, and Locke, if I don't get the idea of this, chime in and I'll do it.
To the enemy. To the enemy. So she'll play an extended clip of Obama or an extended clip of George Bush.
Allow for multiple groups that are working on separate issues.
No. Does Bill O'Reilly give equal time to Michael Pellegatti? And
so
then
if we have this like big project, we're breaking it down into elements.
Nut jobs to counterbalance?
Each group
no,
works on an
we need our own real,
are they able to integrate
that can really
even though they may
talk
not
about the facts
agree
without
with
always
specific
giving
issues across
50% of the airtime to
I
their
was
press? They have enough of their
Okay.
And I'm going to
It's called ABC, NBC, CBS,
WABC,
on and on.
WWOR.
Yes, and they don't give it. What you see on those programs,
break larger groups up
when they
into
have a
smaller
debate,
groups,
it's
so there's that
the
flexibility.
debating
That's the affinity
the
group
far
model, where you have
That's
groups
where that
of 10 to 15
starts.
people who are an affinity group who are
I
autonomous.
want on my media,
They can have
on
their own
Democracy Now!
internal values and
that we
purpose
need.
and
I want
mission
to see
that has nothing to do with anybody else.
Culture
in the city.
Way less.
But they also want to work on
Debating,
community gardens. They also want to work to stop injustice. So they form coalitions with other affinity groups. And the purpose of the coalition
I've heard it over and over.
Occupy
She gives too much time
challenging
to the enemy.
injustice,
and I agree with
creating
that.
economic
That's
justice.
our valuable
So
precious
that
airtime
affinity
that
group joins that coalition when they want to do that work.
This is
And
Action
they join the
21,
community
right
garden
here.
coalition when they want to work on the community garden.
Isn't this Rodman's former
Everybody
office?
does that.
Oh,
That's the design of the whole model, in fact. That's not so therefore, it not just doesn't allow it, that's actually the model.
Excellent.
So Rothman gets kicked out.
The person said
he's going to get kicked out.
even though I fumbled it, I
People
got the
rejected
question
him.
out.
I want
so
Jersey
thank
City
you
people
for the
to take a
answer.
big credit
So
for this because we
I'm waiting for questions out of the chat. Have we got chat lag? Is that what the problem is? Questions.
Oh, no, not chat lag.
Yeah,
50
it
people
happens,
with
right?
letters, saying stop the war, stop voting for the war, blah, 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 whatever.
And we
Mike,
were,
we've letters too with us.
just so you know, we were broadcast
We have to take credit.
on Global Revolution. The whole
finally
interview
kicking
has
him.
been
Get
out
the hell
on
out of here.
Global
We don't want you
Revolution,
anymore.
which is the,
But
the
Pascal
big,
is no better. You got to
big
watch out for him.
mothership
Democrat.
live stream
So
channel.
remember.
So
The guy he's running against is even
people
worse.
all over the world
I
see
know.
that one. So,
You got to keep our...
we have one question. What could or should a GA do when there is a clear provocateur in the group?
Got what?
Stop.
Stop
So we're about to go
process.
into Action 21.
Stop everything.
And
reconvene at another time and not allow that person in.
shut the meeting down and reconvene later.
Right. Now that's the most extreme. That's the most extreme answer to a most extreme question.
Yeah.
Okay. That's assuming that a whole lot of other things have already happened and failed and didn't work.
Right.
Oh, you're gonna go? Yeah, I'm gonna go.
I was in a process that's actually working. That would never happen.
Right.
Oh, okay, all right.
Because you'd have all the checks and balances in, the doorkeeper, and all that
cigar.
stuff. Yeah.
Right. So all that stuff we're operating, but it still can happen. It's not like I'm saying it never happens.
Right.
but
Hi, Miguel.
the kind of
You were live on Occupied Air.
Nice, what's up,
was a
everybody?
flaw in the overall structure.
This is Miguel
not something that
Peralta,
happens in
community activist.
consensus.
Right.
It wasn't a problem of consensus.
Also involved with Occupy Wall Street.
Flawed structure of Occupy. Sorry. It was.
Na na na.
Conclusion.
Na 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 na.
Backwards.
Hey
So
hey.
including people who were iconoclasts and dictators in a group that was supposed to be egalitarian.
Goodbye.
That doesn't make sense. Dictators like to dictate.
That's true. And disruptors like to disrupt. It's in their nature.
Exactly. You invite them. That's
You're
what
also
they're
on
gonna
Global
Because
Revolution.
again, what did you expect?
I have a hole in my pants.
So in an instance
I will
like
try
that,
not
that's a
to
group
zoom.
decision, like the group again decides, okay, we're closing this meeting down, we'll reconvene at a different time.
So here we are.
That's the nonviolent response. That's the nonviolent solution to when somebody just will absolutely not listen to anything.
And people are like, wait a second, they're taking us to an immigrant outreach group. Not a lawyer group,
The group just says,
not a legal firm.
and then you're just banned from any future meeting. You won't come again.
And here we go.
Do everything we can to keep you out, and I'll let you in.
The new office of Action
You can't really do
21.
that either without, eventually.
Here,
I mean,
Jersey City.
it was a funny incident in
In the early
Philadelphia
stages,
during
we're
the
setting
shouting
up.
GA. All the GAs were shouting GAs.
I was going to say, yeah, which one?
Yeah. Was that one of the people shouting in the back of the room? I heard the story after. I was in front of the room.
Documentary on a bunch of guys.
I was working supporting the facilitators, but one of the people in the back room that was shouting was approached by one of my students who was doorkeeping informally. There was no official doorkeeper, but they knew that was a role and they were just doing it. Just spontaneously.
All these incredible countries.
And so she went over, as I taught, to deal with this person who was disrupting.
It's one of the greatest documentaries I've seen, and I plan on screening
Ad hominem attacks at the facilitator,
at a local library.
right? Not appropriate. So she went over to deal with the person, and the
Just,
person,
live
and
streaming,
this other older man
showing
came with her,
people
sort of backed her
Jersey
up,
City,
sort of standing there.
the effects of
And the woman who was
gentrification,
disrupting
and how we
was
need
an
help
activist,
here,
was a
and
drunk person,
basically, hopefully, people are going to jump on board soon and turn
the
this
man behind her
into
said, well, as a matter of fact, I could. I'm the owner of the space.
a thriving
I'm the guy
community.
managing the space. I'm the guy who controls the space.
I was doing a 99-mile march. Oh, it was
I didn't
exhausting.
tell it very well, but it was really, really funny. Because she thought she was being really free, right?
Yeah, helped out.
And standing up for right.
Out in Trenton.
Well, no, actually, I am the guy that can throw you out.
Yes,
Hello, Susan
there is
Melly.
limits and borders. You know, some people aren't familiar with that.
And it was in the Friend Center, you know.
So I've been active all over the place. I've been at Wall Street.
What she was doing was very unfriendly.
Back and forth all over the place.
You know, it was definitely not okay for her to be doing that in their space. Is his approach.
Right. We seem.
I'm not that hungry. I went to a sushi buffet
We seem
earlier.
to be having a little bit of a
$7
Skype problem,
and 50
so
cents for
we're
lunch.
freezing back and forth on this end.
Yeah.
So.
Shadowless, are you around?
I think,
Okay, here.
Okay.
Put your mask up.
We'll try
Put
to
your
keep
cardboard
on,
up.
but if it gets too bad,
Susan,
break
I would
the
like
connection,
you. I would like to introduce you to Shadowless
Right.
Walls.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a little camera shy.
So I have a question from somebody that's involved in the
But that is that is
group.
the Shadowless Walls. He's
And
looking forward
they're
to communicating with
saying
you
that,
on
they
the
saw
stream
you in
later on
NYC,
when he
and
goes on
how
later
do you
tonight
feel
or whenever I go
about
back on.
the
But
capability
yep, that is
of,
the Shadowless Walls.
I think we lost the connection.
And Eric is turning lights out.
I've lost everything. I'm not getting anything.
Okay, I will call you back.
Oh, you're going to call me back? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to break the connection.
So here I am
Call
in
you back.
Action 21. If I may explain, I know a lot of the key members from Action 21 aren't present right now, but they will be soon enough.
We'll go get some more stuff from the move. We put a lot of our stuff in storage. So since we got this great
welcome everyone.
room here, now we're trying to move all the stuff back in.
It's our great
and now
pleasure
we're prepared to start doing work.
and privilege.
It's a sensitive issue. That's why he won't reveal himself. But he appreciates your acknowledgement, and you know, he's looking forward to speaking with you later on.
It should be.
You mean that cardboard sign over there?
Before we go any
That is
further,
Shadowless Walls.
I want to thank Catwoman for helping us make the
And yes, we're here in Jersey City at Action 21. If I may explain again what Action 21 is, Action 21 is primarily an immigrant outreach center dedicated to helping newly nationalized and maybe not and citizen groups acclimate, learn English, get jobs, and become productive tax-paying citizens. And that's what Action 21 is all about. It's about helping Latinos and other immigrants get acclimated to the culture. And they're an amazing organization. And just give them a shout out. And that's Miguel, the tech guy of Action 21.
Can we revisit the story you just told about?
No, the reason why I'm showcasing this group of people, with the exception to Elliot, no offense to him, Shadowless Walls, Eric, Miguel, they were with me before Occupy Wall Street started. They helped me get my foot in the door. Regarding activism, I was with Jersey City Peace Movement. Jersey City Peace Movement, once again, for those of you who are tuning in, meets the last Sunday of every month at the Fountain Journal Square Transportation Center. That is 4 stops from the World Trade Center on the PATH train. It's very easy to get to Jersey City. And basically from 12 noon to 2 p.m. last Sunday of every month at the Journal Square Transportation Center. Bring food, bring clothing, bring medicine if you have some. We directly distribute such things to the homeless community at Journal Square. No middleman's involved. It's us direct.
I actually had a teacher once. It was the whole premise of the class was limits and boundaries. It was a clay class, and that everybody was like offended. Oh, like we have to be able to express ourselves. She just said, no, limits and boundaries give you something to help you find your way. It also gives you something to push against. So they're not bad in and of themselves. They're not restrictive. They're only restrictive but we need limits and boundaries in order to operate in a reasonable manner sometimes. So
it's not the boundaries or the rules, it's who makes them. That's important. When somebody else makes them and makes you have to live by them, that's a problem. When you get to cooperate in making them, they're helpful.
Right. Imposed boundaries are not so great. but collective and mutually agreed upon boundaries are. So the chat is paused. I'm looking back to see if there's any more. I'm sure there was.
Started asking a question when we froze up. I didn't hear any of it. You said when. New stuff. That's all I heard. Brand new. But you said it was from OWS.
Oh yeah. So the question was from somebody in OWS. Said that they had seen you, and I guess you did some work with the Long Island group. And so the question is, how do you see the future of the GA being revived, and is that possible in NYC?
Well, that's a very timely question, because although I'm no longer physically in New York City, although I was for 3 months, the last 3 months, I just got to Washington, D.C. this past week.
Oh, God. That was a wild
I had very
scene.
little
scenery.
reaching out to the
first couple days, it was kind of like you weren't sure what the hell was going on, whether the cops were going to come in and kick us out, or do this or do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And Eric,
Staten Island,
and to give credit to Eric,
more contact with, and
to give credit to Eric, because a lot of people don't know this, Eric used to bring over a lot of waters and a lot of food to Occupy Wall Street during the first 2 weeks before, all the donations started coming in. And,
there's 2 weeks ago.
And yes, the little granola bars. And this is Eric from Jersey City Peace Movement. He's huge, instrumental to helping out the Occupy movement during its infancy.
And they invited me to come speak and talk about my ideas, and I did do that, and it was very, very exciting. There were certainly some people who were very oppositional. They were not interested.
I remember, yes.
Not universal by any means, and I wouldn't assume that would be the case. But
I told you, I think I'm going to get arrested.
Along the same lines of tonight, about the points that I'm making, about the model that I teach. So they've committed themselves to studying and learning value-based consensus to see if it is an alternative and could create the kind of democratic process that the whole movement wanted when they claimed they were having GAs or direct democracy, and it turned out that direct democracy was a lot harder than people thought it was going to be. So that's really it's exciting, but so far it's only been a statement. No one's nothing. Because it takes a while to learn this. You don't learn it in one lesson.
Right. What do you think the nature to the resistance of the idea is? I find that interesting. If you were asked to speak and there were some people that were supportive, but some people were resistant. Were they resistant to the idea, the concept? Were they resistant to the model? Were they resistant to you personally? I mean, what's the nature, or is it just people?
Clearly, you'd have to ask those people. I can't speak for them.
Good point.
But I would say that at least a significant amount of the time, the tactic that disruptors like that use is ad hominem attacks more than, let's say, logical or adroit or philosophical challenges to the actual principles and ideas that I'm teaching.
And this is just moving in equipment here to the new Office of Action 21.
That idea of asking a negative question, that really doesn't work. It would be much better to ask a positive question, because then we keep it a positive frame. Something like that, something like that.
Right.
That would be a cogent argument of an ultimate way of doing it. And I'd be open to that. It happens to be that John Buck, who teaches sociocracy, is a really good friend of mine. I was with him this morning. We do salons together, because I love picking his brain. He loves picking my brain. We have very different ideas about how groups operate, but we respect each other, and we like how we think. So we can talk about different ideas and be different, but still talk about them in not even argumentative ways, in exploratory ways. What do you really mean by that? Do you really mean that? How does that work exactly? I don't understand. I think it's supposed to be, that's what we do, right? But these people are saying, and even it happened 2 nights ago here, right? One of the chat people
This is, we're just waiting. Are we waiting for Narciso?
coming back with.
Well, my question was,
as you can see,
well, who is that person and how do they know? Were they there?
Getting everything together and.
Let's talk about something that happened 30 years ago.
All the network set up.
I'm worried that the person saying that was 28 years old.
I know Michael and Eric were mentioning
good point.
Well, they know
what Action 21 is doing is the majority
so
for immigrants.
there's hope for NYC, and you know we remain cautiously optimistic.
And
yes.
we do our best to
well,
assist
you know,
people.
I wasn't fully fair. Really what happened was that the feminist GA, I don't know if you know much about the feminist GA in New York City, but like I said, I believe that they were supposed to meet last night, but maybe it was Monday. It was this week sometime. Maybe it's next week. I'm sorry, maybe I've got the wrong week. Maybe it's next Wednesday. It's the 18th, I think.
Right here.
Is that next Wednesday?
Any job. Just give me any job.
Yeah.
I've got kids, I've got bills.
Yes, maybe that's it. Next Wednesday. So the feminist GA, that'll be the third feminist GA, and they are making sincere efforts to learn and use value-based consensus as well. But they only meet once a month as a GA.
So, but the effort is being made, and so maybe it will take root. You know, all we need is a couple of good examples, and we're good to go. I have a person asking where and how do you organize your classes on consensus decision making?
Wait, you actually care? Like, no, what is your...
I do them, I travel, so I'm a consultant. I usually come in for, especially when it's a group that exists already that wants to learn this. They hire me, they call me up, and we make a contract, and I go in and teach them on site. I occasionally, and what I was doing through Occupy was traveling around doing spontaneous workshops.
That's Actions. You have a Facebook page?
For the 10, but I'm not doing that anymore. It ended.
Look them up on Facebook.
Backing, the third-party
you can use all the help, maybe some donations,
so
just recognition, get the word out. There's
wherever, based on conditions.
White, black, yellow, purple.
Yes, right.
Okay. Somebody asked,
feel free to come by.
What was it that compelled you to write the book, the first edition of the book?
Well, that was, if you were there the first night, we were talking about the Pledge of Resistance.
And their shadow was
in a leadership role in the Pledge of Resistance in Boston. It was a very large organization.
Everybody say, come out of your shell.
We had something in Boston, I believe we had over 2,000 people sign the pledge, which was committing themselves to doing nonviolent direct action. They're getting arrested if the government attacked, invaded. And then eventually they funded contra-aid, and we did do that. We got one of our major protests. We had 528 people arrested in one protest in Boston. And
so, this is pretty much, we're just setting up, we're building our new, our new base, and when I say I do mean Action 21, not necessarily Jersey City, but Action 21.
Of the approximately 200 affinity groups that we had.
We help out,
made the actual decisions.
We're all about community activism and solidarity.
That
See, even here, Action 21 sponsors a soccer group, a soccer team.
And we were using a fairly refined, evolved version of consensus.
This was to help a coach who got fired from the soccer program. And this is a petition from all the children that, whose lives that he influenced. And, Jersey City decided to give him the boots. And Action 21
we were pretty good at
decided
it,
to
but we were having people join by every week. A couple of dozen people would join and form new affinity groups and such.
City fired our soccer
and they didn't know how to use consensus. As you very beginning of this
job back for our soccer
live
program.
A couple hours
Children
ago,
are
you
people
said you talked to
we
some
have
people
a
today
voice
and they
too.
said, consensus,
Yes, Action 21 even helps the children.
Imagine if we're having people join and they're showing up and they're going, consensus, what's that? And I went to the coordinating council, I said, this is not democratic. Using consensus like this is not democratic because people
you're
don't
getting a better perspective of where I came from before Occupy started.
And they're not. They were sidelined because they didn't know what was going on.
Believe it or not, I met all these wonderful cast of characters.
It was something else.
So I said, Glenn Zarmadov
what we need to do is we need to be teaching people consensus as part of our membership process. We have to teach them nonviolence. We also have to teach them consensus. We have to do that. It's an obligation. So, as anybody who's been a part of an activist voluntary group, you know that the next answer was,
I thought it was a Glenn Zarmadov meeting.
Yeah, have at it. You're empowered.
Yes.
So I thought it'd be easy.
Black Wax, shout out to them.
And I'd never written a book. I couldn't even put a sentence together. I didn't do very good in English in high school and college, so I was really challenged. And it took me a year and a half to write the first draft of the first book. And by the time I finished
you may not want to check that out, though. He's kind of anti-occupy.
It's still around, but it's much smaller. We have been successful in preventing the invasion.
Yeah.
But other groups, in particular the dance community that I'm part of, Dance New England, which is on the Etherpad, they adopted this model. They adopted my book.
Glenn is very strong as far as 9/11
So basically, I wrote the book.
That's his forte. That's his expertise. You ever want to hear stuff about 9/11 truth? Glenn Zarmanov is the guy you go to.
When I first wrote it, I wouldn't put my name on the cover because I felt I hadn't done anything special. All I had done is written down what I learned from these great activists that I was so honored to work with. But when I started teaching it, those very same activists who I had learned this from said to me, this book you've written isn't exactly what we do. This is, you've modified it, you've changed it. Some of them said, you broke it, you've made it less than, so you need to put your name on it and call it your model of consensus because you're not doing what we do. And I struggled with that because I didn't want to put my name on it. I didn't think it was anything special.
By the way,
you're
getting love from Susan and Melly.
Two big new things. That was the flow chart, that separation, the no crosstalk, that whole structure. And the idea that blocks are decided by the group, not by the individual. The individual will hold their consent, and the group decides whether they're blocked or not. That concept was my concept. I introduced that. That's the only two things that were wholesale new in my book. Everything else was regurgitated from what I learned from other people. But that was enough to get people to say, this is too different than what we do. You have to call it your own model. So I eventually did. And my first name for it was secular consensus, to distinguish it from the Quaker model, which was spiritual consensus, which is very different. But that didn't work so well because people thought that meant that you couldn't be a spiritual group and use it.
Oh, thank you.
I wasn't meaning that. So then for a long time,
not Action21.com, Action21 on Facebook.
That structure.
Right.
Pointed to form. But unfortunately,
plug in
especially
Facebook page
in
again?
government circles, they make this cliche they didn't reach a formal consensus
Facebook.com/Action21. Just numbers, 21.
And what they mean was they didn't reach unanimous agreement.
I also run a website.
And that's not what I'm talking about at all. So in the last 2 years, with the help of Ren, who brought this forward, that we realized that the value base is the most important part of the model that I bring, this new culture, this new understanding. And that's so fundamentally different that that's why we call it value-based consensus now.
Right.
So I wrote the book to teach.
To share information, info sharing. Yeah.
Which I think is one of the cornerstones of egalitarianism.
And just nobody has asked this, but it's a good. Are the books still in print, or do we need? Okay, so through.
They're self-published.
Right. Oh, okay.
Anyone has
anything to say
Consensus.net. Okay. So anybody that's interested.
The consensus for cities is not. It's a funny thing. I never really finished it. I wrote it in 2009, partly because I was suffering from PTSD, and I didn't have a diagnosis, and I didn't know that, and I was really scared because my life I was getting in ill health. So a friend of mine offered me a deal. He said, you come and live in my house, I'll let you live here, and I'll feed you for a year if you write down the second book, this other book. Because I've been thinking about it, talking about it for years.
Right.
And since it looked like I might be dying, I thought I better write that book. So I wrote it all down, and I put it in book form so that my students and people could see what I was thinking about. But I called it a proof edition because I never edited it. I never finished it.
Right.
I just got the first draft done. And then my life happened, and I never went back to it. But now I'm selling copies of this manuscript, this unedited book, which feels awkward, but they are available. There's no advertising for it on the website. There's nothing about it because it's not finished yet.
Yeah. So just contact you through the website.
Or my email address.
Yeah. Okay.
So
my next question: we actually have a viewer from Scotland watching this, and it's really late over there. Or early, depending on your point of view. And Locke, I'll try to get this right. With the, I'm guessing you mean with the communications available, do you feel it is important to keep the consensus process to local issues and discussions, or can groups be worldwide using the technology? I bet is where he's going with that. Or she.
Right, well,
New Jersey.
certainly anything's possible.
Hello, New York.
So, with the right adaptations, with the right understandings, I think that you can do anything. Indie Media, the network that's known as Indie Media, started, and the original founding members and the original Indie Media nodes and all that were all based upon formal consensus.
In New Jersey.
Called that. They even had it on their website. It got taken down because people
Where did the Jets play?
Who didn't understand
in New Jersey.
and got all huffy into that resistance part that messes me up. And now it's a mess, actually. But in the early days, and they never had face-to-face meetings, and they were all over the world.
New Jersey gets a bad rap. It's ignored.
So obviously it can be done.
As I was saying the other day, New Jersey has better pizza than New York.
With us, you need to roll that into Mumble, because we could use that there. The next question is somebody who says they have studied Jack Reed's book, The Next Evolution, which I'm not familiar with, and he suggests that we should split into groups of 10, achieve consensus in those groups, and then send representatives from those groups to other groups to perpetuate the consensus. Is that a good way to do consensus for really large groups?
That is what my model, that's what my new book is all about.
Just search for Action 20, go to Google and search for Action 21 Jersey City, and you will get results.
I originally wrote for the U.S. Greens, for the Greens, before it became the Green Party, in 1990. So I've been working, and it's the model we used in the Pledge of Resistance in 1985. So it's not a new idea by any stretch, that concept. But I certainly need to know what was meant by representatives. Because if they mean in the U.S. form of like U.S. representatives and the Congress, House of Representatives, that form of representatives, doesn't work, not a good idea. Mm-hmm. If it's a spokes council, and those are spokespeople, I could buy it. I could accept it. So I don't know what that person's meaning by that, but that connection is crucial.
Right.
And there is another model now out in the world. In Europe, it's called sociocracy. In the United States, it's called dynamic governance. And they address that issue with this concept called double linking. Very, very important to their model as well. It's got to have something in there, that connection between the various circles, the various levels, everywhere it's structured. That link is how it's shaped. What that looks like is how, whether that works or not, or whether I accept it or not as a model, personally.
So I'm pretty much, you know what, I think I'll cut it from here.
They mean like actually
sorry to come up so short on that short notice, but hopefully let's end the wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, etc., Palestine.
When you reach consensus, then you send a delegate from your group to the other group.
The one country no one talks about, Palestine.
Right.
Everybody point all their fingers to Palestine.
They're just communicating.
Yeah, and you can get sophisticated with it. The
APAC
group could send them the parameters.
Treating us over
could
there,
say,
everybody on live stream,
point your finger at Palestine. And let's end the wars in Iraq,
yes, there are Palestinian people, and yes, they're suffering. That's right.
We would rather be a human-propelled vehicle, but we kind of understand for right now probably having a gas-propelled vehicle is what people want because it's faster, blah, whatever. So we're going to consent to, we don't like the idea it's going to be a gas-powered engine, but we'll consent to it because we understand the need for a fire truck. But we don't want them to go whole hog and buy the Cadillac of fire trucks. We want them to get the Prius version of fire trucks.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Yep.
So they could send them with a parameter saying you can spend this much money between $50,000 and $70,000, but you can't spend $100,000.
Okay, good. And they're saying
the representative,
all the other nations.
The spokesperson can go to the next meeting, and if it falls within the parameters, they can consent to it because they've already been empowered.
So
to do
we're
that.
going to finish off with that note. Let's end the wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, etc., and especially
so
Palestine,
you effectively answered
everywhere.
that question. Thank you, V, for your patience and for tolerating my mangling of it. Do we have any more questions from the chat?
Thank you, Eric Nelson.
We have
Thank you, Shadowless Walls.
And we're getting broadcast mirrored on
Thank you,
other channels,
Miguel,
we can only take
for your time.
questions through our chat.
I'm going to be out there in a quick second, actually.
Thank you, Elliot.
Everybody a chance.
This is Michael Pelagatti speaking, hosting on behalf of Occupied Air. Thank you very much for watching this. Good night, folks. I will be with you again, perhaps tomorrow, definitely on Saturday. Take care, and good night, everyone.
And much more, and I appreciate your effort and your passion, and your patience with us.
Good night, everyone.
And just your
Thank you for
willingness
watching.
to be here and tell us, you know, just what's going on with you. And this was such a good way to wrap it up. This values-based consensus decision making. I won't sleep tonight because I'm so excited. So. If you have any closing thoughts, I'm going to wait for a couple more questions, and then we'll call it a night.
Well, I'm going to do this only because it's right there pushing me. It's the environment I live in doing this work because it doesn't pay. I've been a peace activist my whole adult life. I've lived on the edge financially. I've always been proud of the fact that I have voluntary poverty, that I don't take advantage of my white privilege and the background, my class privilege that I was born into. I lost a long time ago, and now it's really gone. I can't reclaim it. It's gone. From some people in my family, I've screwed myself. I've done a really bad thing with my life. But from my perspective, I'm really proud of it. But the reality is that, you know, with all this wonderful possibilities with Occupy and what's happening there, the movement's about economic justice. And I've had to begun saying to people, look, in the last month, I actually ran out of money, so I had to borrow money to eat. I don't have enough money to even eat these days. And here I am doing this great work. I'm traveling, I'm teaching people, I'm doing these interviews, I'm doing this stuff, and I'm starving. And, you know, I know it's romantic, and I know it's the starving artist kind of, or starving activist, but I'm also approaching 60. And it's getting hard. And if we're about economic justice, it doesn't seem to me that this is economically just, that I do this work so passionately and so committedly and am starving because of it. And I know it's nobody's individual's fault, and it's my own fault if you want to come from the old paradigm. I invited this. I created this. But in the new paradigm, things should be different. So I'm waiting for that day to happen, and I hope that I don't starve to death before it does. And I'm not gonna. I'm very creative. I'm very talented. But what it means is that I have to pull myself away from doing this vital work, which I think is essential and imperative, to do things like paint somebody's porch so I can get paid $200, or go to a job. I'm looking for a job with some, you know, an unrelated field. If I use my skills, but, you know, not to this end.
Right.
So if I mean, I understand the people who think I don't know what I'm talking about, they're not going to support me. But the people who like the ideas I have, they've got to figure out a way to translate that into something that helps me survive, because it's not working so far.
Right. It's the same issue we have with streamers and all that. You know, it's everybody's contributing time and energy, but we live in a capitalist society that has overhead by definition. It's the rules of the game that we are in. And yes, we can change those rules, but right now you got to eat. And it's a cash economy, and there's no getting away from that. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't think we talk about that enough. A couple of quick questions. One, somebody wants to know if you're coming back to New York City anytime soon.
Well, that relates directly to what we were just talking about. The deal is that as soon as they come up with the money to afford me, to bring me back, I'll come back. But I can't come back without, I can't get there right now. I can't do it. And I had to leave because I couldn't afford to stay there.
Right.
So the money.
Lisco's is first in Maine, right? Or second in Maine? Second in Maine is Lisco's. So it starts at 9 o'clock, but we will probably be rolling in around 10. So come on out if you can.
They're trying to raise money so that they can bring it back. So yeah, I'll come back. 9 to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. 9:30. Yeah.
This is it.
I'm glad it's not hot out though right now.
Everybody's got art out the wazoo. Nobody has money.
I need to find someone who's good with working with plastics and can make like a mold, because I have an idea for a sunshade and rain shade for my phone.
You know, I say it all the time. CT's here. However you can. How's that? There's I'll throw it
No, not person. It's not a blame thing. It's a transitional dynamic.
It's the way it is, and if I like to say, is in my artwork, I try to help out as much as I can, but I say you cannot expect to be supported unless you're willing to be supportive. You know, that's a two-way street. So what that's worth. A question: how do we help young activists that think they can do whatever they want to learn how to stop being so disruptive? How can we help educate them? My answer to that would be history and context.
And my answer is that you don't teach. You can't. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You don't teach somebody who doesn't want to learn.
I was thinking about like getting like plastic and then painting.
The way I say that is that Occupy is not, in my experience up to now, been a student movement. And I don't mean college students. I mean a movement willing to learn. That's not their ethic. You know, that was the way I was when I was a young activist. I was a sponge. I wanted to learn everything I could. I was reading all kinds of historical documents about anarchy, you know, living my life. I think we talked about that. We've already talked about that in previous broadcasts. So, you know, studying that is really important. But what I would say is you don't. That they have to figure out for themselves if they want to learn this stuff. And until they figure that out, they're not gonna. So there's no point even trying to engage them. The thing to do is to create a model that works so well that they're attracted to it and come willingly because they want to learn.
That's it.
So the goal is to what the shorthand for that is that we have a vision of how we want to be in the world. We recircle the wagons. We don't use what currently is happening because it's not working. We do it differently, and we make it so appealing and successful and dynamic that the people who right now say, oh, that takes too long, or oh, that's not doing stuff, that's having meetings, and oh, that's structure and rules. But when we're doing it and we're being successful, they go, wow, those guys they're really doing a lot. What makes them so successful? And they find out it's because we have a solid process and solid structure and a clear definition of group. Then they go, oh, I get it, and then they join.
Crazy stores down here
because we set a good example.
Pretty interesting down here on Spring Street.
People like to be part of something that works.
A lot of these buildings used to be banks or theaters.
Definitely.
So that's it.
Really, really
and the last question tonight, this is kind of, it's actually, for some reason, it strikes me as funny, but it's actually a real poignant question.
It was the Latin Art Museum, and they let us have art.
When you just emerge from the Matrix and you feel like you're James Dean,
we couldn't, like,
what
after
next?
our last art show, they closed it down, and they also kicked
I have a life.
I've been people out of the Latin Museum, so it's only like their music and dance now. I
feel like I'm an alien. I feel like I don't belong on this planet. I'm from somewhere else. So what's next is you find other people like you.
Or theater center.
You put up signs. You post things on the internet. You find people who are like you. That requires two activities. One is figure out who you are. Who you are. What are your values? What matters most to you? Both in terms of meta words like honesty and transparency, egalitarian, you know, those kind of words, nonviolence, those kind of meta words, but also what matters to you? What motivates you? What goals in life? Like, you know, there's a lot of goals. There's a lot of dire, from a leftist perspective, is the economic crisis, is the environmental crisis, is the nuclear war crisis. There's, you know, we go on and on. There's these crises, but which one of them really moves you? Or maybe it's 2 or 3. It's up to you. Who are you? So first thing is figure out who you are and what motivates you and what you're about, and then hang out your shingle. Put out your what you stand for, and find a handful, a dozen other people who can say, yeah, those values really matter to me too, and doing that purpose or those set of purposes really matters to me too, and start just doing stuff. It includes, in my mind, doing stuff means first you have a meeting to plan to do something, then you do it, you actually do it, and then you have a meeting to evaluate how it went, so you learn from your mistakes, and then you plan to do it again, better. And then you do it, and then you have another meeting, so you do it, you have a meeting, and you do it, and you have a meeting, and you do it, and you have a meeting, and you do it. It's like breathing. It's back and forth. It's not all meetings, and it's not all doing. It's to do both, because meetings help you plan, and they help you hold accountable and evaluate and improve. Doing helps you actually get the job done, or whatever you're trying to, whatever your larger purpose is. And if you find a small group of people and you start having meetings with them and you start doing things with them, that to me is the same thing. You know, having meetings with them, the reason why you're having meetings is to get something done, and then you do it, and you have meetings to evaluate, and then you do something else. You do another thing. Start doing that with people and grow in that dynamic. First thing you just start doing
I am Ingerland 19855. This is Salinas 21164. Please write down their badge number. The rain is just going to take the chalk off. I'm moving away.
Doesn't work. That's not how you become a vegetarian.
Keep walking.
The way you become a vegetarian is you find out what you want to eat. You cook and you eat what you want to eat, like beans and rice, tofu, tempeh, all the things that are not discover what they are, you learn about them, you start including them in your diet.
You don't have to talk to them.
And then one day you go, wow, I can't
Really, my media pass out.
because you're eating all the things.
Nothing to see here. Keep walking.
That you will actually do. Because that's what you want to do. Eat the things you want to eat. So if you approach vegetarianism, what you can't
So all of this just because somebody was chalking. So tell everybody, let everybody know I'm live. Let GlobalRev know this is going on.
In the same vein, is that in the form of affinity group, the long-range goal is you want to...
So welcome to Art Walk, where you get arrested for artistic expression.
And no longer participating in the open culture.
Everybody start walking south.
Community people.
Everybody start walking south. Everybody start walking south.
Start moving.
Can you hear time?
Are you guys closing the sidewalk? People are walking around.
I want to thank you so much. It's been a real honor and a privilege, and I just have so
There's more cops here. There's a lot of cops here. Let everybody know what's going on. Get people here right now. There's a shit ton of cops here. They're surrounding us. Let people know. Get as many people out here as possible. Tweet Occupy LA. Tweet GlobalRev. Whoa, brakes! You can't check human on the shoulders! A t-shirt for talk! A preschool teacher for job.
She's a criminal.
Yes.
She's terrible.
I must be a criminal teaching all those children. And education and good things like being a good citizen and taking care of the world. How dare you? They're shoving people off the sidewalk. Right now they're shoving us off the sidewalk. Hard.
Where are our taxes? Look at that. This is overshot. This is oversight.
Badge number 20198. Badge number 19919.
Doctor, you guys have kids who chalk on the side.
Badge number 21164. Get these badge numbers, guys. We're completely surrounded by cops.
You guys are getting fucked over too. You're fucking people to say
All around us now, guys. And this is over somebody chalking on the sidewalk. We would like to read the LAPD, a code, Civil Code, California Civil Code 52.1. If you violate our rights under the color of law, we can sue each and every one of you. As you can see, there's probably about 75 cops out here right now. Each, for each one of us, for each one of you. Read it. Please write down badge numbers. If I get them, get a piece of paper and pen out. There's at least 70 cops out here, if not more. I see more behind lines. I got helmets on. Tell everybody we're live.
All right. Well, I'm Jatal. I'm at Punk Boy in
Get his name. Get that officer's name right there.
Intimidation or coercion. Intimidation or coercion. Interfere by threats. Interfere by threats. Intimidation or coercion. Intimidation or coercion. With the exercise. Or enjoyment. By any individual. Of any individual. Or individuals. Rights secured. By the U.S. Constitution. Secured by the Constitution.
We're chanting sidewalk is chalk is not legal from the other side.
The Constitution of California. The Attorney General. Or any district attorney. Or any district attorney. Or any city attorney.
As you can see, more and more cops are pouring in.
Taking the civil action for injunctive inappropriate.
We're standing our ground. They've pushed us back some ways from where the arresting was. They've got a huge crowd on the side.
In order to protect a peaceable exercise or enjoyment of the right or right secure any action brought by the Attorney General, any district attorney, any city attorney, a civil penalty. Civil penalty. It's the cops that are doing that.
They're the ones who pushed us here. They're the ones who pushed us here. The cops did this. So the cops are dispersing right now, it seems.
Why don't you not tip us off what you want? Whoa, did you see that? Please tell me.
So, we're not concentrated in one spot. We're all over the damn downtown area right now. A lot of people are concentrated here because we got pushed down here. All the cops are headed down that way now. And there's still a few of them blocking the street. We're in downtown LA. We're between 5th and 6th Street on 5th and 6th on Spring. So we're at Art Walk in downtown Los Angeles. And this is the way that occupiers are treated wherever we go. Yeah, they really hate chalk. Apparently, you know, being that it's raining, chalk is just such a horrible thing to do. And what we're doing is we've handed out free chalk. There's free chalk everywhere. I personally didn't do it, but look at this shit. And hopefully people will start chalking. There's lots of cops out tonight. There's 70 here for one arrest over chalking. 70 cops for one person chalking. So as the night goes on, we'll see what else happens. We just got here, so this is just starting out. So we just got here. Welcome.
My friend Taylor.
Welcome, my dear. Nice suit.
Oh, thanks. I can't get arrested, so I'm going to look as white as possible.
Yes, that's a good idea. See, and that gives you an opportunity to talk to the other really white-looking people. Then you can tell them, hey, don't you think it's fucked up that we're talking? Welcome back. How have you been? Yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to be live here. I'm not going to leave. The cops are still across the street. They're still floating around within the crowd waiting for people to do that horrible vandalism known as chalking. So, and I'm sure more people will do it. So,
oh, I see you.
Do you have a cigarette by any chance? I'm like, ah! Wow, that was crazy.
Oh, there's the sirens. Over. Like, yep, that's right.
Yeah, if you ever need to find Occupy at Art Walk, just follow the sirens. So, craziness. Welcome to the insanity. So, yep. The cops have just actually, like, there's so few cops here. I'd say there's about maybe a dozen. The rest of them are right around the corner.
They're in the parking lot.
Yeah, they're in the parking lot over here. So we're gonna, I'm gonna stay live, even though it's a little boring, to see what happens. You know.